Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Red Hat President of Products and Technologies, Paul Cormier.
Wow, good morning. You know, the people we just heard from here, this is what makes this meeting just so unbelievable. I know Jim said it last night, it's his favorite meeting of the year. I just can't echo that enough. Just looking at all you guys here from all over the world and our partners and our customers coming here, we're going to have a huge week this year. This is probably, this is our 9th summit. This is probably the biggest, most exciting summit we've had in those 9 years, based on the products that we're going to announce this week. What you're going to hear this week, you're going to see some game-changing products that we announced this week. What I'd like to talk about a bit today is a few things. The industry's changing dramatically. I want to go through that a little bit. But also Red Hat's changed dramatically, and I want to go through that. I want to give you guys a few things that, over the last 10 or 11 years that we've done as a company that really, really were pivotal into where we are now and where we're taking it. We are really in the midst of the biggest IT transformation in decades. We're right in the middle of it today. We're in that swirl. It's all about rapid innovation right now. I've been in the business too long, a long time, and I have never, ever seen the innovation go so fast as it is today. The interesting thing about that innovation today is that rapid innovation is being used to solve real-world problems almost immediately. What used to take 3 years to develop and get out into the hands of people using it is in some cases 3 hours now. And so that's what's amazing right now. And the only reason why that's possible is because of open source technologies. The open source development model has really, really changed the game in all of that. And just like you saw these people that were here yesterday about coming to the summit from all over the world, the best part about it is that you folks are all part of that process. And you have been with us for the last 9 years. That's the best part, and that's what makes it the most fun. But over the last 3 decades, we've seen a lot. We've seen us move from mainframe to proprietary stacks to client server. That's really happened over 3 decades. But then Linux came along, and Linux just changed everything. Linux, in the beginning, it moved us from really a pure commodity play to the innovation driver of the transformation that's happening today. Linux is the reason why the innovation is driving this transformation so rapidly right now. The cloud, we say this all the time, and it's just so true. The cloud would not be here without Linux and open source software. I know you've heard it from me, you've heard it from others. You're going to hear it a lot because it's just so true. We would not have that capability today had it not been for Linux and open source software. The other proof point on it is that every major infrastructure initiative today in software, I guess someone maybe will correct me somewhere, but I can't think of one. Every major infrastructure initiative is based on an open source project. Think about that and the difference that it is right now than where it was and where open source was 10 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. Right now, from bare metal to traditional, from bare metal to traditional virtual, and yes, I do mean traditional. Some people might call what vSphere does legacy virtual because we're at that point right now, all the way to private and public cloud. They're rapidly converging into one. And the whole idea of that and what CIOs need with that today, they need to utilize that and manage that as one cohesive infrastructure. But but as this convergence happens, there's increasing demands on the business to consume this innovation. The business in these large large enterprises today, the business is what's driving today, and they have huge pressure to consume all this innovation that's happening today. Then they're looking to their IT departments to manage all this transformational infrastructure as one. So I need it now, I want it now, and IT has to manage it now. IT's got to try to digest that and consume that, and then they've got to do everything that they're also doing today. In some cases, IT's now out brokering services from other IT providers, and they have to bring it all together in a seamless, secure environment for their business partners within the company to get their jobs done. These are huge, huge demands that are being put on the backs of IT. And while innovation brings these new technologies to the enterprise, the reality is IT just can't keep up. They're having trouble just keeping up right now. Our big question, and how I think we all can help, from us as a company to our partners, to our service providers, how we can help the IT departments deal with this, we can help them bridge this innovation gap. And the way we're going to bridge this innovation gap, just as we've been doing for the last 10+ years, is with open source. Open source standards are setting that acceleration. But open source is really more than just seeing the source code. And there's so much confusion around this in the industry. Everybody says to me all the time, hey, we're going to open source this. And you say, well, what does that mean? There's so much to it. With open sourcing the source code comes open development processes. You need interoperability, and it brings interoperability to the game. Shareable resources, portable services, unified management. These are the things that you get in a truly open development process, in a truly open source development project. This is the reason why open source is driving this technology shift that's happening today. That is the main reason. Linux, cloud, big data, cloud applications, they're all being implemented as open source projects today. And these are some of the key elements of this IT transformation that we all call cloud that's happening today. It's no accident. This is for real right now, and it's because of open source. But you know, we at Red Hat, this is exactly what we set out to do from the beginning of the company. Our main goal here was to drive open source into the mainstream. Our goal wasn't to put open source out for hobbyists. Our goal was to drive it into the mainstream IT infrastructure and get it adopted as the main primary development process. We did this to open up and change the one company innovation mode of the past. The problems that we have to solve today in technology, they just can't be solved by one company. This is why the open source process is thriving today. Our job today is to now bridge that gap for enterprises to consume this next generation of technology, just as we did with Linux over 10 years ago. You know, what you've seen from us over the last 10 years is the proof point of that. You know, the open source development model, it's just here to stay. It's proven to be transforming the industry today. It's here to stay, and it's here to flourish. You know, it really is, open innovation really, really is the future of IT. Jim touched on this a bit last night, and it's just so true. Just look around at the major projects out there. For us as a company, it's been about 11 years after the first major commercial open source product and company made it into the mainstream. That was RHEL as the product and Red Hat as the company. It's been about 11 years, believe it or not, since that. We brought open source, we brought open source in an open, developed way to the enterprise. You know, but what we've done over the last 12 months as well, we've transformed the company over the last 12 months based on what we have done in those previous 11 years. And it's all based on open source development. And it's all been, as I said, with the support of all of you, our customers, our partners, the community, that we've been able to do that. You know, this week, you're going to see the introduction, as I said, of many exciting products based on open source technologies. I'm going to whet your appetite a little bit about those introductions here, and then we'll follow up later with a webcast. You know, these products that we're introducing here are really defining the next generation of computing. But we as a company at Red Hat, we've taken some pretty big bets over the past 10 or 11 years to help in this transition. In some respects, what you're going to see this week could not have been possible without some of those bets that we've taken. In some respects, it's a culmination of a lot of those bets that we've taken over the last 10+ years. So before I start and talk about what we're going to announce here, I'd really like to just take you through just a few of maybe 3 of the bets we took along those 10 years that I think were really pivotal into getting to where we are today. First and foremost, there was the first release of RHEL. We brought Linux to support commercial-grade workloads. That was a big change for us. The Red Hat Linux model and the Fedora model, we harnessed the community development model to bring Linux into the data center. And we're deep in the data center today. We're as deep as you can go. RHEL 2.1, which was the first release of RHEL, and Fedora Core 1, it really was a bet the company move that we made early on in the company's history. We literally changed our entire company model. We changed the business model, we changed the technical model, and we changed the company model overnight in one fell swoop. I'd like to say we knew the magnitude of that bet at the time, but we knew it was big, but we never realized it was as big as it's turned out to be. We did this for one reason. We knew we wanted to get Linux deeper into the data center, and this was the bet we took to get it there. And we also knew we had to stop the madness of closed, stifled innovation that had been driving the industry for the 40+ years earlier. That was our goal. You know, this was one of the big moments in the industry back then. And early on, when we started out on the mission to get RHEL into the data center, we always used to say inside the company that the road to Redmond was through Sun and Mountain View. And the first step on that journey for us was to commoditize the proprietary Unix world. And what we did in order to do that, we gave the enterprise the first commercial-grade Linux implementation as an alternative. This was really an alternate to the many incompatible Unix distros that were out there. And yes, incompatible. Back then, the industry tried to tell the world that just because Unix came from the same heritage 15 years ago and 4,700 releases ago, they were compatible. Wasn't true. You couldn't get an application to run across any 2 Unix distributions out there. We changed that with RHEL. That was our first goal. Unfortunately, this was one of the last Unix casualties out there, was on the backs of Linux. As I said, though, back then, open source and Linux was purely a commodity play. The reason why we succeeded with this was a commodity play. We gave a better operating system at a better cost, coupled with better hardware from the likes of Intel. That's what it was back then. The next major thing that I think was a major change in the company, in the industry for that matter, was the middleware space. You know, so with the success of RHEL in the data center, we now needed a platform for developers. I can remember one of our early RHEL customers saying to me one day, "Please help me. How do I not go to .NET?" And that sort of really was a light bulb for us. We took a big bet again, and we went out and we acquired JBoss. And it may not sound like a big bet, but we were a very different company back then. We were a very small company. For us, that was a big bet for what we brought JBoss into the company for. We did this for one reason. We recognized that JBoss was a very strong community out there. And we did this so we could invest even more heavily in that community and build a world-class open source development product line for developers, built by developers, based on developers. That's why we did that, and we've been investing in that ever since. And you know, in yet another space, not unlike the operating system, open source proved to be a better way to develop middleware. Middleware happens to also be a critical component of both the infrastructure now and the infrastructure of the future with cloud computing. It really, in middleware, just like the operating system, it really takes more innovation than just one company can deliver, hold up in their offices somewhere in the northwest, in the northwest part of the country maybe. The vision for us, at that point, the vision for a stack built from complete open source software started to take shape. You know, as a company, that was one of the first times when we brought that into the company, when we extended it, when we started to build more services around it, that we began to really tell ourselves, we can get a whole infrastructure based on open source software. That was probably 7 or 8 years ago that we were looking for that. The next, I think, major point that I'm going to call a pivotal point was the virtualization space. We were the first company to move virtualization into the operating system. We were the first company as a commercial operating system to recognize that the hypervisor is just part of the operating system. I mean, you have all these other companies out there telling you now that, well, a hypervisor is not an operating system, or it is an operating system, or you don't need an operating system. The operating footprint's just changing. And the hypervisor and virtualization into the operating system was one of the major changes in the operating system in a long time. But when we did this, the initial technology we looked at when we did this was Xen-based. We were fully behind Xen with a lot of other companies. And then, you know, then what happened there, the company that was really the leaders in Xen, that small company got acquired by a large company that in a proprietary player that really did not understand the power of community. And it was sort of zigzagging in weird ways at the time. But, you know, at the same time that this was happening, a better virtualization model was emerging, KVM. That was happening at the same time of the zigzag of the Xen world. You know, while a lot of the industry was behind Xen, our best and brightest kernel and virtualization engineers told us all the time, we need to move to KVM. You know, and as is always the case where we listen to our engineers, we listened, and we took a really big bet again. We acquired Cormier for some of the same reasons on JBoss. We acquired them so we knew we could invest in both the community and the product side that we bring to our customers to make that a really strong, game-changing technology. And you know, the reason why that was such a big bet, you know, in the JBoss days it was a big bet. We're a small company, it was a big price, etc. This was a big bet for a different reason. Because it looked like to the rest of the world like we were going in a very different direction than the rest of the industry. But that's what you have to do to be a leader sometimes. And now look what happened. KVM now sets the standard for Linux virtualization. So that's an exciting pivotal point that I think. I do believe that this was the point where open source development really went from a pure commodity play to the driver of innovation in the cloud. The community out there needed not only a strong operating system to do this, but they needed a strong virtualization technology to do this, and it had to be open source. And I think this was a very important point. You know, you look at it today, I know I've said it 100 times, the cloud could just not exist today without Linux, KVM, and the open source development model. This was one of the turning points. That's just a true statement, period. You can take that to the bank. It's very difficult to argue with that one. So, you know, we've had a lot in the last 11 years as a company that's been big for us. But those are three that I think really changed the game over those 11 years. We just would not be here today had we not taken those bets and those gambles back then. These are the main pieces that I was referring to when I said what we've been able to do over the last 12 months as the infrastructure shift is happening so rapidly is because of some of the things that we've done over the last 10 years. Those are the three things that I mean on that. I'd like to now just take a minute to just look at the last 12 months, because the last 12 months has been game-changing for us in the industry as well. And our goal over the last 12 months was to start to put some of these solutions together to enable our customers to consume more of cloud technologies, to easily consume more of cloud technologies. And again, these are based over what we've done over the last 10 plus years. The first thing we did over the last 12 months, we launched Open Hybrid Cloud. For us, we launched this as a practical roadmap for us at Red Hat to deliver our next generation open source products. We look at this architecture with Open Hybrid Cloud as helping our customers build that next generation infrastructure, from cloud to infrastructure as a service to platform as a service. As we build these products, we really focus on 4 personas who need these products to implement and manage these infrastructures. First is the business leader. The business leaders in these companies, they need a problem to solve, and they need technology to help them solve this problem. That's the first focus for our products. The second is the developer. The developer is under more pressure than ever to satisfy the needs of the business leader for an application to solve their problem, and the business leader wants it yesterday. The first is the IT operations people. They have to make it all work. They have to give the developer and the business leader the tools and the infrastructure in order to make it all work. And secondly is our partners. Our partners have to work with us to go out and together solve those real-world problems for our common customers. That's what we're looking at with our next-gen products. The cloud, infrastructure, and platform as a service, all built from the products that Red Hat has been building for the last 10 years. And the reason why this is so natural for us is because these platforms have been developed on those products, those open source products that I talked about that have been in the market for the last 10 years. The second thing we did, we backed up Open Hybrid Cloud with real, true Open Hybrid Cloud management. We acquired a small company called ManageIQ. And once again, open, as I said, open is more than just seeing the source code. It also means managing Red Hat, not only Red Hat cloud products, but also many others. Many of our competitors. But if that's what the customer wants, we need to ensure we can manage it with all our cloud products. We do this all the way out into the public cloud. Management from bare metal to virtual to private to public cloud under one pane of glass. This is true open hybrid cloud. ManageIQ, with some of our other products and technologies, brought this together for very strong solution out to our customer base. The next thing we did in the last 12 months is, just as we did 10 plus years ago with RHEL, we started the journey of storage into the hybrid cloud area. We did this with the introduction of Red Hat storage products. These products are based on a project called Gluster, and we acquired a company called Gluster to bring that into the fold. We did this so as enterprises start to take advantage of hybrid cloud, they'll have an open solution and a critical component of that, storage. Just like compute, storage is a key element to a real, true open hybrid cloud environment. We look now and we're building our storage products in to be the underpinning for both our big data and OpenStack solutions. The next thing was OpenShift in the enterprise. We did over the last 12 months. From the beginning with RHEL, developers were key, they remain key, they'll always be key to what we do. They saw what we were doing in the cloud with OpenShift as a free service, and they also needed a way to rapidly build applications inside their enterprises for both public and private hybrid cloud environment. They came to us and said, please bring this into the enterprise. So we delivered OpenShift delivered enterprise OpenShift based on the strong demand from those customers and partners. We could only deliver this based on the strengths of RHEL and JBoss technologies. That's what drives our OpenShift offerings out there. And lastly, one of the big things we did in the last 12 months was around OpenStack. We delivered a community OpenStack platform for developers. We did this to help in the adoption of the OpenStack platform in the community. Not a commercial product yet in the last 12 months, but we did this for that platform for the community. This is a very important platform, and we wanted to ensure that the community had a strong, stable platform to keep the innovation going in the OpenStack space. But just as we've done for RHEL and Fedora, as well as all of Red Hat products, with this, we embraced the strength of the community. We embraced open source development with this, and this is why we brought this OpenStack platform to the community. This is how we shape and drive our associated product offerings. If you notice from here, every technology that we put together, we always build a community platform first, and we build that for the community. We try to understand what's really needed, and that's what drives our product offerings. This has been our proven commercial balanced model that we've proved over the last 11 years. As we do with all Red Hat products, we back it up with strong community participation and strong investment in the community. As you can see here, the latest release of OpenStack, as we are with the Linux kernel, Red Hat's the leading contributor back to the community. We never, ever, ever get confused like virtually all of our competitors on where the open and closed line is. At Red Hat, there is no line. It all goes back to the community. Whether it's development on the community platform or whether it's development on our products platform, it all goes back to the community. This has been a standard for us from day one, and it's a strong standard. It's in our DNA. You know, today and this week, now you're going to see the fun part. You're going to see this week many new products that we're building upon that power of open source development. And we've been building upon that based on what I've talked about today of what we've done over the last 12 months as well as over the last 10 years. The first thing that you're going to see with us, you know, is the community remains key in everything we're doing right now. And there's a next generation products coming, and that's still the same. That's still very relevant with them. As we bring this next generation of products to the market, we're extending our technology model to bring the most consistent platform as a service and infrastructure as a service platforms to the enterprise. We're basing this on the consistent building blocks of those community platforms and those products that I talked about earlier. Everything we're doing is built in open source, community, enterprise class methodology of everything we've done since RHEL. This is enabling true open hybrid cloud. This is enabling application consistency across that open hybrid cloud. We think we know how to do this. We got a lot of experience in doing this, and we're going to use the same proven model that we've used, that's gotten us here. The first really exciting thing we're going to talk about this week, you're going to hear a lot about this, we're extending the RHEL product line. I'm personally very excited about this. You know, just as we did and the Linux community did with Linux and KVM, we integrated KVM into RHEL, and the community integrated KVM into Linux. RHEL OpenStack platform will now extend that integration. We'll integrate OpenStack into the RHEL platform. We're doing this to easily build both public and private clouds based on OpenStack. Just as we did for RHEL, we're doing this also to make an OpenStack platform with a compatible operating system consumable by the masses. One consistent RHEL, from bare metal to virtual guest to OpenStack-based private clouds to OpenStack-based public clouds. One consistent platform. One consistent RHEL for application consistency within that platform. You'll hear a lot about this week. This is the first OpenStack platform with the ecosystem that enterprises need. This is what made RHEL RHEL. When customers could take RHEL out of the box and put it on any piece of hardware that they took out of the next box. That's what, and it just worked. That's what made RHEL RHEL. We're going to give the same thing with an OpenStack platform. With strong partners like Intel, Cisco, and IBM, we'll go to our common customers and do exactly what we did to RHEL with OpenStack, deep into the enterprise. We're doing this to enable that enterprise with OpenStack and to bring cloud to the mainstream. It's out there right now, but it takes way too much expertise just to get these new technologies running. As we did with RHEL, we want to bring it to the mainstream. The other exciting part about this from day one on the RHEL OpenStack platform, 4,000 plus certified OpenStack hardware platforms and 13,000 plus OpenStack certified applications right now, today, as of 9/10 this morning. This one commercial OpenStack platform for the enterprise. The next thing we're going to announce this week as well is Red Hat Cloud Infrastructure product. This really is another exciting product in the product line. This is going to bridge the traditional, maybe call it legacy virtualization model of today with the cloud model of tomorrow. We bridge this with one product. Traditional virtualization combined with cloud infrastructure under one management pane, one pane of glass for management. This will be the only OpenStack platform to date with Windows and Linux certified on top of the OpenStack platform. Unlimited RHEL guests will also be part of this product to make it easy and consumable for enterprises to scale this out across data farms. Policy-based cloud management from private to public clouds under one pane of glass. And from a business perspective, this truly is cloud for the price of virtualization. The next thing we're going to announce this week, we're announcing the GA of OpenShift Online. This really, from the beginning, has been a platform for developers based completely out in the cloud. As I said, it's based on the same Red Hat technologies that we've been delivering for years. Enterprise Java EE from JBoss, and things like multi-tenancy and security from RHEL. We do this to ensure that application consistency across the open hybrid cloud, with a business model to match. A cloud-based business model for the first time from Red Hat on this product line that sits entirely out in the cloud. So, you know, as I hope you can see, we've had a very, very busy 10+ years. We've also had a very, very, very busy last 12 months. And as I said a number of times, in some respects, what we were able to do over the last year in driving the next-gen technology platforms for the industry was a culmination of those things that we've done over the last 10 years. We have huge, huge plans to build on that starting today. And while it may be 10+ years in the making, the journey we start today with these new platforms is truly, truly just the beginning, and something that we have been preparing for from the start. We're ready. I hope you're ready. Thank you very much.